Log number 9 for English 153, Intro to Women Authors. This week we read Woman at Point Zero by Nawal El-Saadawi. And I'm going to be doing a close reading from page 116, at least it's page 116 in my copy. I learned to resist by being passive, to keep myself whole by offering nothing, to live by withdrawing into a world of my own. The most striking thing to me about this sentence would be the contradictions and the paradoxes. First of all, resisting by being passive. Pulling from the Oxford English Dictionary here, resisting can mean an act in opposition to, or to strive against, to fight, oppose, to contrive not to yield to withstand, to be unaffected by the action or influence of. So while resist means action of some sort, passive means not acting or exerting force or influence, yielding readily to external force or the will of another, submissive. And on OED it actually said offering no resistance. Definition of passive. So we've established that resistance and passive, it's a paradox. It doesn't seem like you should be able to do both. It seems impossible to resist by being passive, but Firdaus does. She submits to the act of sex. It's on her own terms, but is passive in that she doesn't become invested in it, really. She just lets it happen and never feels any pleasure. I mean, this is due to childhood genital mutilation, but she knows that her clients want her to feel pleasure, but she never does. They want her to be active in sex, but instead she's unfeeling, uninvested, passive, and that's how she resists men, by never giving herself fully. And this goes into the next part of the sentence. Keep myself whole by offering nothing. That makes a little more sense in the literal sense. Like you can't be whole if you're giving part of yourself away. But the placement of the two words, whole and nothing, is juxtaposition. They're contrasting words, and that whole means everything, and then there's nothing. So this emphasizes contradiction and contrast, a theme throughout this sentence. And then the sentence ends with another contradiction, paradox, and that is the idea of to live by withdrawing. Granted, I'm an optimist by nature, but I've always felt that there's a certain connotation by to live, more than just the biological sense, but like all the experiences life includes, that whole when I come to die, I realize I hadn't lived, l'chaim, all that. So I think when she says live, it has a certain connotation of to embrace the world. But then she does that by withdrawing from it. So that is a paradox as well in my mind. So in this one sentence on page 116, there's been two paradoxes, there's been juxtaposition, emphasizing contrast, but why? Why are there all these contradictions? And I think these contradictions in the sentence exist to mirror the contradictions in Firdaus' life, in Firdaus herself. It's a contradiction or a paradox that Firdaus took control of her life by choosing to die instead of appealing her case. The contradiction that she is an empowered sex worker seems like an oxymoron to some, but selling herself was how Firdaus took ownership of herself. A paradox. Contradiction that she gave herself to men so she would never have to enslave herself to men as a wife rather than a prostitute. And just to be clear, that is not the case with all sex workers. Many enter that line of work out of desperation or coercion. Human trafficking is a real problem. It's just not the case with Firdaus. Anyway, the contradictions in this sentence on page 116 are emblematic of what seem to be the contradictions in Firdaus' life. And if I can stretch myself in this argument a little further, I would say it could also serve as an emblem for the contradictions within the sex industry as a whole. which commodifies and monetizes an intimate, passionate act that is usually based in love. It puts a price on what some would consider the priceless. It demeans some women, but it empowers others, like Firdaus. So, to reiterate, sex work is full of paradoxes. Firdaus, who is a real person, is full of paradoxes. And that is shown in the sentence on 116, which mirrors all those contradictions.